Hello and welcome to Just Onside. It's been a long time. It's been about 3 weeks. I've not seen my dear friend Ois for a long, long time. So how are you, Ois?
I'm doing good, Ayub. It's good to see you too. Not been too bad. Yeah, I mean I'm to blame on Ayub. You can say it, it's fine.
No, no, it's not so blame. You had your family over, so obviously it's family is much more important than the podcast and me, so it's understandable. How was
Yeah.
your time with your family?
Well, I care about the podcast. As for my partner in crime, I mean, we'll leave it there. But no, I'm joking. Yeah, family was great. Yeah, I mean, they had a good time. We actually moved out for a little while, for a couple of weeks, to an Airbnb, not too far from workplace in an area called Al Furjan, which was really nice place. Family really enjoyed it. But they went back to the sunny climate of the UK. I say tongue in cheek firmly because
It's 8 degrees. It's blowing a gale here.
it's blowing a gale. Yeah, I've heard it was a little rough today, but no. So they've gone back. So yeah, we enjoyed a bit of time, and obviously after Ramadan with Eid over here, you get long public holidays, let's say, with the celebration of Eid. So yeah, it was really nice just to relax, unwind, and take it easy and see the kids once again, and the missus, I should say. But no, all good fun. How have you been? Happy to be having your coffee again in the morning.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just not one coffee, about 6 or 7 cups straight away. So that's okay. I mean, back into a sort of normal routine once the fasting is finished. But it's been a rough weekend, and you know exactly why it's been a rough weekend. My goodness me, it's been a rough few weeks. In
Well,
fact, it sort of coincided with the sabbatical.
I was going to say, does anyone want to win this championship? Because some of them have come a cropper. So let me tee you up. I mean, a great opportunity after Leicester, I think, lost to Plymouth, was it? You'll have to correct me
Yeah,
if
on
I'm
Friday night. Yeah,
mistaken.
yeah,
1-0, I
yeah.
think it was, that it ended. And you thought with Leeds, even with Leeds' stuttering form, you thought, here you go, opportunity knocks, home to our hometown, Blackburn Rovers. And you're thinking, right, great opportunity. Let's make it happen. What happened to you? Take us away.
If you're ever in wretched form, the team that you want to play, if you're at the top, is Blackburn. They've been absolutely awful. They got spanked 5-0 by Bristol City on Wednesday, I believe, and that was so a team that's bereft of confidence. We're sort of stuttering. We're not playing well. A lot of players playing on empty. But I thought Blackburn Rovers at home, where we've been unbeaten all season, we've won most of our games. I thought surely not. We're going to come a cropper against Blackburn Rovers. But my goodness me, what an awful performance. We had our opportunities, but it just wasn't happening. I mean, and it's a story I've told a number of, because we live in Blackburn. It's it was always going to be open season for the Blackburn fans. They were having a go, and rightly so. At the end of the day, they thought that this was going to be not the game that's going to define their season, but certainly a game where there's going to be no points. They're looking forward to Sheffield Wednesday. Didn't expect that they were going to get anything at all. Uh, I about we've got this tendency that we tend to sort of score quite early when we're certainly on our good run. That's what we were doing. So we took control of the game, but last few games we've been struggling to score early, and the longer the game progresses, the more I get fearful. It was about 80 minutes. I mean, I wasn't watching the game again. It's the nerves were too great to watch the game. About 80 minutes, I'm on the bed lying down. I'm checking Twitter constantly, refreshing it. It's about 80 minutes gone. I'm thinking, well, at least we've got a point. Within 15 seconds of doing that, Blackman score. Thankfully, I was on the bed because honestly, I mean, this is over dramatic, but it felt like somebody sort of telling me that a friend has just passed away. It felt my legs went seriously. I could not.
My legs are
Yeah,
gone.
yeah. My legs went. I was physically immobile for 10 minutes. I was in a state of a complete distress. Uh, and it was the worst feeling, and I was absolutely furious. I mean, I kept on thinking, look, at least get a goal, at least get a point. Uh, but the reality was we were never going to get a point. We're just in some awful form. And again, the man responsible for this is Daniel Farke. I've always said Daniel Farke
He
is
wasn't he
is
wasn't responsible for your great run, but he's responsible for your
no, but
stutter.
I've told you, I've given you a reason why. We've got great players, or very, very good players for the championship.
So let's blame
His
them.
Well, his tactic is, and I'm going to give you some sort of stats. His tactic is just pass it to the wide players, and they'll have a moment of brilliance, and we'll win the game. And in a sense, That's what's happening. When you have very good players in the Championship, you can probably get away with that. I'll give you some stats. We've had, I think, about 140 corners. In the last 140 corners that we've had, 0 goals. We have in our midfield now, most teams will have their fair share of goals from the middle of the park. Guess how many goals our midfield has scored this season?
The entire midfield?
Yeah, in time. Well, we're talking centre midfield.
5.
0. Guess how many attempts on goal the centre midfield have had all season?
2.
Well, no, 11. So at least there's been 11. You cannot. That to me is indicative of Farke's lack of tactics, because it's purely reliant upon the players up front who are going to have a moment of brilliance. It just is inexcusable. The players are running on empty. I mean, we've absolutely blown it, because there's no way that we are going to be able to navigate ourselves through the playoffs. I'm absolutely livid. I'm absolutely fuming. We had an opportunity, Leicester losing. Any team with any character would have gone for the jug here. Not Leeds United, not Farke. And I think, in a sense, the team represents Farke. Utterly clueless. We're playing Middlesbrough. We've got QPR. We've got Southampton last game of the season. There's no way. We'll probably pick up maybe about 2 points. Might pick up 2 draws. But there's no way. And Southampton now, the teams at the top who have been stuttering have given Southampton a glimmer of hope. So I'm not a happy buddy at all. And then on Sunday, well, obviously we'll talk about Liverpool, but that was it was almost like
the icing on a not so nice cake.
Yeah. So it's been a shocker of a weekend. So I'm not happy at all. And I just, as I said, I think I've been proven right. I've been criticising Farke. You've obviously said that Farke is a decent coach. I think I have been proved right. Again, I've sort of said
what
about
position are you again?
3rd, and it's not good enough. It's not good enough to have the second best squad in the league comfortably, to be 3rd and potentially finish 4th in the season. That's not good enough at all.
Well, hang on. You might finish 4th, but you might equally finish 2nd or 1st. So I mean, look, let's see. I tell you what. Let's evaluate the case after 46 games. Quick question: if this ends up as a meeting at Wembley playoff final, will you go?
No chance. I can't. If I went to Wembley and we ended up getting beat, there would be carnage. There would be a man arrested in Wembley for attempting to burn down Wembley Stadium. That's the sort of thing I would do. It would just, I couldn't. I mean, I just can't cope. It would be just too much. I mean, obviously, it's a sort of, you want to be there if you win, but I just would be too nervous. And it would be, I think, for other people's safety that I stay in Blackburn. But you never know. I might just decide that maybe it's worth the risk.
It should be said that the Just Onside podcast and community doesn't condone any violence or arson of any kind. It should be, at least one half of it doesn't anyway. But all good stuff.
Right, that's enough about the Championship and the dramas, because there was plenty of dramas at the weekend. You obviously, as an Arsenal fan, and me as a sort of Liverpool sort of supporter, it was insane. It was madness. It was a weekend that was memorable. I think for a neutral, memorable. For a Man City fan, absolutely fantastic. But certainly as an Arsenal and Liverpool supporter, it was a weekend to perhaps forget. So without further ado, we'll go to Arsenal first. You as an Arsenal fan, I'm absolutely sure that you watched the game. What's your thoughts? Where do you think that leaves Arsenal now?
Yeah, I mean, look, firstly on the game itself, we'll come on to Liverpool afterwards. But with the Liverpool result earlier on in the day, this was, to some extent, an opportunity, in a sense, to shift this perhaps to a 2-horse title race. And even though there's games to be played, I actually felt an Arsenal win would have left Liverpool with quite some work to do, because they would have been 3 points adrift of Arsenal, who would have led the Premier League, but also that goal difference would have just been too big. So it's essentially another result, so to speak. So I think that would have just put Liverpool very much in the back seat, let's say, or kind of in the rearview mirror with regards to the title race. I actually think yesterday, with Arsenal losing, they're still around. There's still a route for Liverpool still to come up trumps, but we'll discuss that in a moment. I mean, look, first and foremost on the game itself, I thought over the course of 98 minutes, I thought Villa shaded it. I thought Aston Villa were the better team in the second half in terms of keeping the ball, keeping Arsenal at bay. Now, there are some issues with Arsenal right now, which I'll come on to, but look, they've been incredible in 2024, so let's not get it twisted. You've got to just give huge credit for Aston Villa, kept 2 clean sheets against Arsenal. Arsenal were much the better team, I thought, at Villa Park, losing 1-0. But I thought this was a game of, in some ways, 2 halves, although Villa had some great opportunities even in the first half. Obviously, that famous the chance Watkins hit in off the post, which he was very unlucky with after the Gabriel mistake. But look, first half, Arsenal, I thought, shaded it for sure. Had some great opportunities. Jesus had at the far post. Havertz had some great openings. Those midfield runs were coming up trumps. Saka had 1 or 2 moments, but you thought, you sensed after the Bayern Munich game as well, I sensed Arsenal had to get the first goal. Villa are very much a counter-attacking team. They've got, for me, an incredible striker up front. I thought even when he signed the contract at Aston Villa, I still think actually there might be some big teams now looking for him and happy to pay top dollar to get him. His all-around game, Ayub, is second to none. And I mean that. It is elite level football that Ollie Watkins is playing up front in terms of just his touch, bringing others into play, winning free kicks, having the pace, poise. You saw the finish, incredible finish, albeit slight deflection, but the poise he showed, I thought even with his chance in the first half, he did pretty much everything right, go across, very unlucky, but incredible footballer, I think. I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal have a strong look at him in the summer in terms of blowing their entire budget on him. But look, I thought Villa, like I said, were the better team. Arsenal, I think the thing is, there's something, I'm not going to use the words that others might want to use because look, they've been in incredible form. So you can't just wash all that away in one game. But what I have seen just in recent games, and it's the little, I always say it's those little things, those in-between things. They've been playing, again, a little bit too safe, a little bit cautious. They lack what I would call is ruthless speed and pace, with Martinelli slightly out of form. So they're very much a very ball to feet, making things happen, similar to, in a sense, what you explained about Leeds. Of course, Arsenal are a different beast altogether, but that kind of, there's not as much incisive speed, I would say, in terms of Arsenal. You think very methodical, yes, but not as much. So when things are not going perhaps quite as good, or it's 0-0, they sometimes can labour to some extent, as opposed to just killing teams with like reckless abandon that sometimes Liverpool do. So they don't necessarily have that in their locker. I thought that was one aspect. But you could tell us, as the second half wore on, Arsenal couldn't find the solutions. Give Unai Emery and Aston Villa huge credit. I thought the way they beat the press consistently, the way they came out, I thought they were incredible, to be fair, in the second half. But even I expected Arsenal to slowly start to come up trumps in the second half in terms of pouring it on a little bit. But then obviously comes the big moment with the goal as well. It's just what you see at the moment, in a sense, where it's funny how a team can look so good. Like even Liverpool, to some extent, they've not looked as good as Arsenal. Let's not get it. Arsenal have been arguably the best team in the league so far. Yeah. I think up to yesterday, in terms of control, in terms of clean sheets, in terms of everything. And it just goes to show that when, I wouldn't call it pressure, but there's always pressure. You're trying to win big things. But it just all of a sudden starts to materialize. You see it in the crowd, you hear it in the crowd, you see it with players taking certain chances, like the Tielemans shot. I mean, Zinchenko could have cleared that like for 7-8 seconds. He then tries to do something funny. Tielemans wins it, and he scores a worldie, which he's more than capable of. So, look, I think Arsenal, in terms of the game itself, they can't have too many complaints. I thought Villa, in the end, were the better team. Could have been worse at the end. Watkins had a great chance again with the 1-2. Again, I thought it was incredible. One of the best performances I've seen in terms of against that centre-back pairing, which is an elite level centre-back pairing. From an Arsenal perspective, look, honestly, are they in the backseat? Are they in an underdog position? Absolutely. I mean, look, Man City have hit at the top. This is what a lot of people expect. There's not many within the footballing fraternity that's going to think this is somehow going to reverse field now and the other two are going to come up trumps, because City have been here, done it. So great from their perspective. And look, give credit to City as well. They do this all the time. They apply maximum pressure on the others, whether it's Liverpool in previous seasons or Arsenal. I would argue Liverpool have actually withstood that pressure in previous years. They've just come up short. Arsenal obviously got caught last year. No doubt they've been feeling the pressure this year. I think if you're a good team and a big team, Ayub, setbacks happen. You've then got to then show what are you made of. What can you come up trumps? Can you recover? They've got some tough games. They've got to go to play United. Some might say that's not the toughest game, but United, Chelsea, Spurs, just to name a few, and still one or two others away to Wolves. No games are easy at this stage. You saw that with Liverpool yesterday. But what I would say is this is the time when you want to see what your team's about. Can you settle in? Can you dig in? Can you dig out a result? Can you get yourselves back in a bit of form? I think Munich might be a challenge. I really do, in terms of the short turnaround, the psyche of the team, the squad. Do I think they're capable of getting a result? Yes. Do I think they're just not quite in that same form where you've got Martinelli firing and you've got a striker who scored? It just seems there's just one or two, and you only need to be 5 or 10% off, and suddenly an Odegaard yesterday looked a bit tired, might be carrying an injury going into the Bayern Munich game. So all of a sudden, you can look a very different outfit. Just to finish off on the first stanza, I think in terms of my mindset right now, Ayub, is look, let's see what Arsenal are about. You've had a setback. It's their first setback this year, and we're in April, halfway through April. It's their first setback this year. Great point at City. One could argue still a great point at Bayern at home. I mean, listen, this is the Champions League quarterfinals. But now is like when the question's asked, are they going to just fall away? Are they going to lose back-to-back games? This is where you've got to come up trumps, come up big, get back to it. And remember, I mean, given their point situation and their goal difference, yes, it took a hit yesterday with City also spanking Luton. But there's a route because they've still got the superior goal difference. So all Arsenal can do is apply maximum pressure on Man City. And you never know, a decision here or there, a couple of injuries, whatever. City look like they're going to be going deep in the Champions League if they can come through Real Madrid. So let's see how that all works out. My mindset right now is it's a big test for Arsenal. Do I think their title challenge is over? No, I think that's just hyperbolic at this stage. What you've got is a test in front of them. And if you want to win the big trophies and you want to challenge at the highest level, if you want to just be mediocre and finish 8th, 7th, or try and qualify for Champions League spots, have at it. Arsenal have been there, done it. And I'll be honest, it's not much fun. But when you're going for the big stuff and the big titles and the big trophies, this is where you want to be. April and May, knocking on the door, playing big games in pressurized moments, and seeing if you can come through. Arsenal have to answer that question, and only that manager and that squad can answer it. And let's see what they're about.
Decent summary, but I just sort of feel that it was a monumental moment. Especially playing after Liverpool getting beat, because it's where you sort of sense an opportunity and you go for the jugular, and this is really what the opportunity was, because it's been sort of neck and neck, very tight, and really what you always want is to have it in your hands, and really that's what it's been. It was a wonderful opportunity for Arsenal to say, right, we are in complete control. It's ours to lose, and it's. And a home tie against a home game against Aston Villa, who are a decent side. They're in the top 4 for a reason. But the way that Arsenal have been playing, I mean, they've been majestic. They've been a machine. I don't know how much it took out of them, the Bayern game, because that was a really intense game. For the first time I saw, I mean, you talked about Odegaard, even Rice looked a bit leggy. It was the first time that I've seen a little bit of lethargy from Arsenal. And I think, not just physically, I think the game against Bayern Munich, perhaps emotionally, was quite taxing as well. And it has an impact. People just think it's physical. But I think sometimes the mental side of playing football at the elite level is something that can't be underestimated. I just think it's the team that you don't want to wrest the initiative back to is Man City. And I think that's the problem. Maybe if it was Liverpool, where perhaps they've got the edge, you can always say that Liverpool might slip up. The one team you can't expect to slip up. Now, I will now see. I've looked at the fixtures of Man City. They're going to get maximum points. I can't see them dropping any points. They've been there. They've done it many, many, many times before. They know exactly what it's all about, winning the league. And that's the problem. When you are competing for the league against a side like Man City, you don't give them a sniff. They've given them a sniff, and it's.
You think it's over?
I do. I think this was the defining weekend. Liverpool, for me, we'll talk obviously about Liverpool as well, but to me, it was a case of right to show the attitude, the application, the mentality. That's the key. It's the mentality. And like last season, to a certain extent, they've been found wanting. And you just don't. You don't allow Man City a sniff. and now it's all up to Man City. I mean, this is exactly what Man City want. If they're going to be calling the shot, they are not going to drop points. So really, I think the league has been decided this weekend.
I think most people would agree with you, Ayub. And I think, to be fair, looking at Man City's fixtures, I think I agree with your sentiment that it's difficult to see where they are going to drop points. However, that's why they play the games, Ayub. And that's why, I mean, you are right. It was an opportunity for Arsenal. I mean, Gary Neville mentioned it, and I understood where he came from, where he said the fact that Liverpool couldn't quite beat City at Anfield, the fact that Arsenal couldn't deliver a knockout blow at Etihad, although I didn't think they deserved to win the game. Let's be very clear. I'm just saying if they'd managed to find a goal, you had that situation with Trossard and Martinelli in the second half where he could have played him across and he would have had a clear shot on goal. And I understood the sentiment behind what Guy Neville was saying, which is, look, if you want to slay the dragon, you've got to kind of go in their backyard and show them what it's about. Kind of plant those seeds of doubt, saying, look, it's a different Arsenal team or a different Liverpool team. Man City have failed to beat any of Liverpool and Arsenal this season in the Premier League. So it's not to say that these teams can't compete with City. It's just that City are so consistent in terms of their ability against all the lesser teams, and I say that respectfully. And to your point, Liverpool, I mean, Arsenal, Villa is always going to be a tough game. They've been beaten by Villa earlier on in the season, but Liverpool was the most surprising game, which we'll come on to. Although perhaps not so surprising given their recent form, or at least in midweek with the Europa League. I agree with you in that sense. It's hard to see City now because they've been there, they've done it, they've got an incredible coach, an incredible squad, incredible set of players. They're knocking, on all the fronts in terms of trying to win trophies again. Perhaps going for the treble once more, which would be absolutely incredible. I just think they're still. I think it's too easy to say, look, we're short of City. Do I think Arsenal are as good as Man City? No, absolutely not. But I think that's why they play the games, that's why we have competition. And I think if it's all very well, and I thought Mikel Arteta summed it up quite well, it's all very well easy to kind of feel sorry for yourself and say, look, we have changed and we have matured and all the rest of it. City put on you the highest standards. You're not going to get by with 81, 83. You're going to have to put together an incredible points total to win Premier Leagues. And it's not to say that the other two teams are found wanting. It's perhaps that they just can't quite reach that level, perhaps that Man City, although Liverpool have, at least at one stage, I would argue more than one stage, just because they didn't win the title those years. So look, I see your point, and I see why most people would say Arsenal have blown it, although I don't understand why we would be so negative to a team that's had an incredible 2024 with 3.5 months in. But it's still in their hands to rescue perhaps a quarterfinal second leg. Look, the opportunity's there, isn't it? You're not playing an incredible Bayern Munich team. You're playing a good Bayern Munich team that's just surrendered the Bundesliga last night. I just think there's, with big games come opportunities. They've got a chance to go into Munich and do something special. Imagine if they do. Look, they might get tonked. But imagine if they do it. All of a sudden, you're thinking, hang on, this team, semi-final, listen, are they going to get a better opportunity? Who knows what's going to happen in the other semi-final? Either way, it's City, Real, so it's going to be tough. But I'm just saying, if you want to win the big stuff, you've got to go up against the big boys and compete. Arsenal are doing that to their credit. Now comes a testing moment. Are they going to wilt? Or are they going to turn up and say, look, we're going to try and put a few wins together and see where it takes us? All they can do is keep applying pressure on Man City. That's the only thing Liverpool can do. There's no point being too defeated saying we're short. What does that mean? Just give up? No, you keep playing the games. That's why you play the games. And who knows, there could be something that happens with Man City. Like I said, a penalty, a red card, some injuries, whatever. There's games of football that you play for a reason. Do I think City are going to win all the rest of the games? I just want to be surprised if something happened in one of the others, Ayub. So I would say keep playing the games. And if Arsenal find a way somehow miraculously to win out, used to say that they can't win the Premier League title. The next game is the most important, obviously, in the league. They've got to somehow just get themselves a win just to get back on form. So let's see. Tough result, tough situation. But given what they've done in 2024, I don't want to be too critical right now.
I admire your optimism. I think it's misplaced. City aren't dropping no points at all. But until the final sort of game, I think it will still probably.
Where's the fat lady? I don't see
but I just, as I said, I mean, I just City are just they're. In terms of, I mean, you talked about sort of best teams. I still sort of maintain that in terms of the season, how it's panned out, I would sort of say that for large portions of the season, Arsenal have probably been the most clinical team, and I'd go as far as sort of saying it almost the best team. But it's key defining moments. And that's where really the mentality comes into play, because you can have a great team, great players, but in key moments, you've got to make sure the mentality is there. And I think that's where both perhaps Liverpool and Arsenal have been found wanting. But let's see. As I said, I'm convinced that this weekend has decided where the league's going. We obviously have touched upon briefly Liverpool as well, and that was just remarkable. I still can't get my head around what I witnessed yesterday. It was just bizarre. It was absolutely remarkable. I mean, it was a poor Liverpool performance, but they could have scored 6 goals. Uh, but it turned out to be a 1-0, a demoralising 1-0 defeat. And again, in the same way that I think for Arsenal it's catastrophic, I think for Liverpool as well, absolutely catastrophic that they end up with no points. A fixture that really they should have won comfortably. I mean, what's your thoughts? Because it was an unusual game. Because as I said, they could have scored 6 goals, certainly in my opinion. And what was your take on? I mean, did you watch the game?
I followed the game and I watched extended highlights afterwards. You said something earlier, which I thought was an astute point in terms of there is something physical, but it's very much a mental and emotional game at this point. What I did watch is the midweek game against Atalanta alongside my son, who's a diehard Liverpool fan. So that was difficult watch. One of the things I said to him yesterday was, just as well you made it back. Otherwise, we'd have watched back-to-back Liverpool games or Liverpool defeats, and then he would have sat with me watching the Arsenal defeat. So probably just as well that they left for home Saturday night. I mean, look, there's something about Liverpool. I mean, in the Atalanta game, Atalanta were much better. I mean, let's be very clear. They were clinical. They were sharp. Skamaka, previously of West Ham, he looked He looked super lively, and it was a really good performance from Atalanta, to be honest. Very incisive, and you feel like that time might just be past, or just be a little bit too beyond the reach of Liverpool in terms of to recover. Although you wouldn't put it past them. But then there was this question mark, right? You've got a home game against a relatively struggling Palace team, although they've now got Elise back. And whenever any team that lines it with Elise and Eze, I'm always thinking, right, they've got some live wires. Both players potentially could be away from Palace next season, in my humble opinion. But look, I just thought it just wasn't a surprise, was it, Ayub? They've not kept any clean sheets in the last 9 home games or whatever it is. It could have gone 2-0 down if it wasn't for a miraculous recovery, clearance from Robertson. And the goal was all too easy, wasn't it, Ayub? But just too easy. Overloads on the other side, cutbacks, and pretty much an empty net. So just under the returning Alisson. But too easy if you want to win Premier League titles. That's just way too easy for teams. And when teams get to your byline, that's a problem. Because cutbacks also, whenever they turn you around towards your own goal, it's always an issue. Bad things happen. That's what happened. Liverpool, what is the issue? Some would say, look, we were never good enough, because they've just gone through some results. But I think actually that the criticism of Liverpool, or their critique of Liverpool, has been a little misplaced, in the sense of, I just think their style of plays, look, we know we're going to concede chances, but we're going to score plenty. And now that's all fine. The cliched guys would say, well, what happens when you don't score? Well, that's fine, but they've also kept the odd clean sheet as well, so it works both ways. It's just, I just think, I mean, the chances they had yesterday, but I'm talking sitters, right? I mean, look at the chance that Nunes has, and we've said that too many times this season. But he's got to pick a better spot. I mean, he's slap bang in the middle of goal, 4 yards out, and the only place he finds is just where the keeper is. I mean, just find a spot, hit it. Look what Fernandes did against Bournemouth. The ball's bouncing in the same part of time. What did he do? He lashed it into the roof of the net. I just think Nunes, there's just something about him. He can score great goals and he can miss some very easy ones. He should genuinely be on 20 league goals. Easy, light work for him, given the chances that he's missed. But then there's that. Then there's the blocks. You saw it from Salah, the Jota miss. I mean, these all like last ditch stuff happening where you're thinking it's a goal, and then suddenly a Palace player appears from nowhere to block Curtis Jones one-on-one and shanks it kind of wide. He had loads of opportunities. Loads of opportunities. One of them, obviously, one of your favourite players, Jota, obviously missing one as well. I just think Liverpool, they've lost a little bit of legs in the middle. I don't know whether or not it's just been a little too much to ask for Endo in terms of his first season, because he's been incredible for 3/4 of the season. But there's just something, isn't it? You mentioned about Rice, and I agree with you, by the way. There's just something, I think, when you ask your players to go again, it's an intense game. It's a pressurized game. There's just something that, and at the highest level, you're talking 5%, and that's plenty in terms of just losing 5% in your tank. So I agree with you. I think Endo just looks like he's just struggling a little. Szoboszlai's also had a stop-start first season. McAllister's been great, but again, it's just I think they're just losing a little bit. They've got some returning players, so you just thought, right, they've got Allison back, Jota's back, Arnold was on the bench, and you're thinking, just scrape through this one, and we've got some of our key personnel back, and then kick on. Devastating blow. Absolutely, because again, inferior goal difference after City had smacked Luton as well. You just felt like if they'd won. Now, if they'd won and Arsenal had lost, can you imagine? Like Liverpool have felt super great about their situation. Like I said, I still think Liverpool, it was the best result that Arsenal losing, because that really would have put them on the back foot. 3 points and inferior goal difference. So look, devastating blow. Are they playing well enough to win the Premier League title? No. Arsenal was a bit more surprising, even though they were playing better opposition, in the sense that Arsenal have been playing the better stuff in terms of all-around defensive, offensive, although yesterday had some shaky moments for sure. I think the worry that most Liverpool fans have is, well, we're not keeping clean sheets. So you're just always needing 2s and 3s to win games, and that's just not sustainable. Even I accept that's not sustainable. And half the battle for Liverpool is teams think they can score against them. And that's half the battle. Because if teams just don't respect you, they'll just keep coming at you, coming at you, coming at you. So look, I think they are in a similar boat to Arsenal in the sense of the next game, it's not so much about the performance. They just need to scrape a win. And I still believe if you've got two teams snapping at the heels of Man City, although Man City will have been there, they won't feel the pressure as much. You've still got to try and take it into those final 2 or 3 games. Weird things happen. So that's the only advice I can give to Liverpool and Arsenal, well, fans and the team is, it's all very well thinking, oh, City have hit the summit, here we go again, let's just pack up and go home. I just think, can you imagine a situation where City do drop points and Arsenal and Liverpool falter again? So that's my point. Look, force Man City to earn it. If City win out and they finish off winning, I don't know what it is, 15 of their last 16 or whatever it is, kudos, you doff your cap. But you've got to force them to maximize their efforts. So remember, if they go deeper, you've been to the Champions League, if they win against Real and then they are playing Arsenal or Bayern, City will also have to make few critical decisions in terms of personnel, in terms of rest and all the rest of it. So look, I'm just saying, from a Liverpool perspective, devastating, tough pill to swallow. They probably have to win out, you would think, given City's fixtures. They definitely would have had to win out if Arsenal won yesterday. But they're still there. They're just there with 6 games to play or whatever it is. They are there. So they've just got to think, right, let's win out and force City to win out as well.
I mean, it might just make it easier now because the pressure's off to a certain extent, because being front runner and having it in your hands has a certain added pressure to being the underdog, or maybe I suppose being the chaser, because if you're sort of setting the pace, you're almost fearful of slipping up. Now it's different because they'll just turn around and say, well, it's not in our hands. All we can do is try and win every single game. So maybe it just may liberate them slightly. I mean, you touched upon the Atlanta game, and again, it must have had a profound effect because they were absolutely. I've not seen Liverpool completely outclassed, outplayed, and it was. And this is an Atlanta side that is 6th in the Italian league. They've not been, the recent form hasn't been outstanding, but the tactics that they used was absolutely outstanding. I think there was a lot of man-to-man marking, which is almost it reminded me of Bielsa when we were at a Pomp, which was in a sense it was man-to-man. It just puts an intense amount of pressure on the opposition because you just don't have any respite at all. It was a poor Liverpool performance. I mean, really, it could have been more than 3. And that's not an understatement. I was not expecting this at all. I really wasn't expecting. I mean, at worst, it would have been a draw. Would have been to me a real surprise for them to lose. And I mean, I actually thought that the pivotal, what could be a defining moment, you talked about the outstanding Robertson clearance off the line. I thought that was going to be the game changer. I thought that 2-0, it would have been probably curtains, or at least it would have been very, very difficult. But I thought that, right, this is going to be the moment where the tide turns. And maybe it did turn, but it was just the inability to be clinical. I mean, I've been a critic of Nunes for all the talent that he has. I just think he's one of the most thickest attacking football player.
Careful.
No. I mean that because he is thick. I think he's.
You can't say that.
It just is. His decision making is absolutely. It's just it. I've always sort of said he's a spontaneous player. Where if he doesn't have to think, he's okay. Very much like with Diaz as well. I think Diaz is thick as well. These are two players that just have no brain.
You could find a slightly more subtle way.
No.
As
I said, I mean, there's an anger there as well because it frustrates.
This is what happens when Leeds lose.
So and I'm talking about Salah now as well. I'm going to add Salah to the mix. Now he's certainly not somebody that I would say is not an intelligent player, but he's been, I think, for a number of games, maybe a number of months. I think he's a shadow of his former self, and I think the sooner Liverpool get rid of him, the better. Because again, yesterday he was a passenger for large portions of the game. Do you know what I was thinking yesterday? I was really thinking when they were really struggling that this is where, do you know, Stevie G, back in the day when Stevie G was playing for Liverpool, he would roll his sleeves up and he would sort of say, right, I'm going to make something happen. I'm going to be Captain Marvel. And he invariably always did. He came up with a crunching challenge, a 50-yard pass or a goal that would absolutely turn Anfield back into a raucous environment. That was what was missing yesterday. I was looking, right, who's going to step up to the plate? A couple of times, I mean, I was at the Carabao Cup final where Van Dijk sort of was the one who sort of got Liverpool back in the game, or at least he sort of made a difference. But really what you want is a midfield player or an attacking player to make the difference. And that was sadly lacking yesterday. I mean, they had the opportunities. There was no question they had the opportunities. But it was. I mean, Jota. I mean, I am a huge fan of Jota. I mean, I'm looking at it. I'm sort of thinking, is it Jota? Is it great defending? I don't know what it is. I'm still trying to work out. Should he have been more clinical? Should he have gone in the corners? I don't know. I mean, it was just not happening. I mean, I thought when Robertson made that clearance, I thought that was the moment that Liverpool will go on, get an equaliser, get a winner, and maybe even score a third goal. But it's in the same way that for Arsenal it's catastrophic. Same for Liverpool. They've blown it.
Yeah, I think both results had a similar feel about them. Different opposition, but losing at home on the same day. Can you imagine a Man City supporter or a Man City player or somebody associated thinking, right, let's settle in and watch these two games, and you get the maximum results out of both of them, with Liverpool and Arsenal falling short at home. I'm with you in terms of Liverpool. It felt, even for all of their kind of lackadaisical play and what have you, you felt if they got that one, they probably would have got the second, right? Attacking the Kop in the second half. For them not to score attacking the Kop, it's somewhat surprising. But it was some last-ditch defending as well, let's be very clear. The keeper pulled off one or two great saves. I think there is something, though, which is difficult to prove as a theory. And look, it's been proven the opposite many times as well, where sometimes when the pressure is building and you're going for big trophies and big chat titles and all the rest of it, of course that plays on the player's mind. So when opportunities present themselves in big moments, sometimes you're making the safe play, the safe decision, as opposed to think about earlier on the season when Nunes had time and chipped it over the goalkeeper or whatever it was. You know, there's I'm not saying that's just one example, but there is something that felt, even like the Jota one, there's times when he's so good at finishing that lad.
Yeah.
That you felt maybe on another day you would have just put the defender down and flicked it over him or something like this into an empty net. But it was all too safe, if that makes sense. And it was just, I'll just roll it in, and Salah, I'll just roll it in, and suddenly a player appears from nowhere. So there might be something in that, in terms of just losing that calmness that you need in those pivotal kind of moments of, you know, when it's the pressure's on its highest, to still keep your cool, to say, look, this gets us the equalizer, to then give 10-15 minutes to try and get the winner. There's something, even Arsenal lost their way yesterday. If you watch it carefully at 1-0, you're thinking, look, it's 1-0, settle down, try and get an equalizer, point, who knows. But they lose the second goal straight away, and it's just, you lose your shape and desperation kicks in. So I think from a Liverpool perspective, I agree. I think, look, you can't be losing at home to Palace. I mean, Villa's one thing, Palace are much inferior to Aston Villa. So
Mm.
I think to lose that, I think you'll have to correct me if I'm mistaken. Is their next game Everton, Liverpool? I'd have to check. Liverpool, Fulham, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's Fulham.
Everton,
The
Fulham,
next
yeah.
game's the
Fulham
next
and
game is
Everton, they've
Fulham and
got
then Everton. Yeah.
so they need 6 points. It's as simple as that. They need 6 points, and Fulham obviously had a good win themselves. I think yesterday,
Mm.
right? So yeah, it was
Yeah, yeah,
yesterday.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, look, let's see where Liverpool can go from here. I think it's going to be difficult, but I'd say the same thing. As much as Atalanta looks difficult to reverse, and I would agree with that. 3-0 is probably too much to overcome. But let's see. They're within a win away from being top of the Premier League, and I still just would not give that up. You might say like, "Oh, it's not going to happen." Fine, then make City win out because City are an incredible team, but they'll be wanting that 4.5 point buffer, which they currently don't have. If you go into I would even go as far as to say, if you take it into the final game of the season, funny things can happen, weird things can happen because all the teams would be under pressure. So look, from an Arsenal Liverpool perspective, brush yourselves off. If they lose back-to-back games, it's done and dusted, most likely. But if you go back, you win, you get back on the horse, so to speak. All you can do is keep winning your games and keep forcing City to win out. To be honest, if you ask me the question, are City going to drop points? I probably would say no. I'm not going to lie
Mm.
to you, but that's not how competitors should be thinking anyway.
I mean, you're obviously thinking there's going to be another twist in the tail. I hope there is. I hope there is another twist in the tail because obviously, for sentimental reasons, plus obviously I do like Liverpool. I want it to be Liverpool, and I feel sort of angry that that they've allowed an opportunity, or they've spurned an opportunity because it was there, and that's the frustration. Because I think if you're beaten by a better team, then you can almost hold your hands up and say, well, look, we did our best. But to lose, and you can turn. I always sort of say that it's the key moments that you need the key characters. And I thought there was nobody at Liverpool that really stood up to be counted. And I think that was where I was really frustrated and annoyed because, as I said, I looked at that game and I did. I mean, I reminisced about Stevie G, and this was where there are characters that really you need, especially if you're going for the league or if you're going for trophies. You have to have players within that team that are going to stand up and be counted, especially at key and critical moments. And same with the Arsenal. I think with the Arsenal as well. I thought, hang on, where are these key characters that you need when the chips are down? And I mean, the first goal, I think was a shock. I mean, when I looked at the reaction of the Arsenal players, they seemed to be stunned. And I think that's why the second goal went in. It was just, they were almost sort of processing the
They
fact
had
that,
it
hang on,
recovered.
yeah. So, but in terms of a neutral, in terms of a Man City, it was a wonderful weekend. I mean, as I said, I'm still reeling. I still need to have a lie down, relax, and get over what's happened. Certainly, there's a lot of talking points. So, I think in terms of what me and Otis have to say, I think that's unless there's anything else that you need to add onto what you've already said, Otis. I think
Uh,
that's
That's a
we've
wrap.
said our piece.
Yeah, absolutely. That is all I've got to say on those matters for yesterday. But I want to get your quick thoughts, and I say quick thoughts on two separate points. You're wearing your, I was going to say your Burnley claret. I imagine
Yeah.
you watched the Burnley game. I mean, boy, oh boy, oh boy, did you see the equaliser?
It's. I mean, I think it was. I mean, I've not watched it, I've been told it's a howler from the keeper. So
Bless.
I don't know. I mean, but really they're down. I mean, they're down on that anyway. So I don't think it really matters.
You say that, but they were leading, and yes, there was still quite a significant amount of time to play. But honest to God, I've never felt more sorry for a player. I don't honestly like, just in terms of he's obviously made a ricket the other day as well. But like, I just think to myself, if you're a professional player and you made a mistake like that, you'd be so gutted. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, as a
Yeah.
goalkeeper, you could see it on his face. Bless him. I felt so sorry for him. Just letting it roll under your foot. I mean, the crowd, they really needed that win. That's the final nail, most likely. But anyway, just wanted to catch your thoughts. Obviously, I imagine George was spitting feathers, all the rest of it. And then
Well, yeah. I mean, I spoke to him, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think I don't know. It's just
acceptance. He's moved on.
yeah, because you can't. I mean, it's almost symptomatic of the season that they've had that it perhaps is inevitable that when you've been so shocking that sort of ridiculous things like this will happen, because ultimately it sort of you're at the bottom for a reason, because you've
Yeah.
obviously not been good enough. But then also, I think when you're that poor, the luck that you have is always bad luck. And that's basically what's happened.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, yeah, look, it was just a horrible moment for the goalkeeper. And one final point, Ayub, I'll give you the floor. We had the news over the weekend that a Leeds legend has retired due to issues with his knee. Stuart Dallas, I believe. Some words, Ayub, pretty good player for you guys, yeah?
Absolutely, and he's part of that iconic group of players that we had that absolutely flourished under Bielsa. I mean, he joined from Brentford when there was a lot of issues, and he has I mean, he's been a yeoman servant, and he has been fantastic. He is Mr. Versatile. He's played right back, left back. He's played centre midfield. He's played right midfield. He's played left midfield, and he really was. I mean, he was a character that gave you everything, and it was the and we've missed him, because I think he was somebody I think he was more than a utility player, because I think he was somebody that you could always rely on. And I mean, the injury that he got was absolutely horrific, and it was always unlikely that he was ever going to play again. If he ever played, he was certainly not going to be the player that he was. Again, that's why it's even more frustrating that he was serenaded at half time, and really the fitting tribute would have been a win to sort of send Stuart Dallas off, because I think he's been a wonderful servant. I mean, what I'm hearing is good things. I think he's going to have a role within the club. He's very settled in Leeds, and it's all right. I mean, he's been a wonderful servant, and under Bielsa, he played some outstanding stuff. And what I will always remember, unfortunately, there was no fans in the stadium, but when we beat Man City at the Etihad, he scored. I mean, we it was 1-1. We had 10 men. We had a man sent off. We played the whole of the second half with 10 men. He scored a 90th minute winner through the legs of Edison. It was absolutely superb. As I said, the tragedy was there was no fans, but he's left some wonderful memories. And he was a player that I think every manager would want, every coach would want, because he was a team man who would give it everything. And it's just a shame. I mean, I was so hoping that he would recover or be fit enough to at least maybe have one game. And what I was wanting, I was dreaming of a scenario where we've secured promotion, we're playing at home, Ellen Road, and he maybe has 10 minutes to say goodbye, and maybe just one last time sort of have some time on Ellen Road. So
You're a sentimental also, aren't
well,
you?
yeah, I mean, I mean, I dreamed of that scenario, but I forgot the one factor that this is Leeds United Football Club.
The one consistent
Yeah.
fact in your
There
life,
is never a fairy
unfortunately.
tale at Leeds United Football Club, so it's a shame. But certainly, I mean, the tributes that was bestowed upon Dallas were absolutely they were wonderfully touching and wonderfully moving, and deservedly so. But I'm so glad that he will be involved in some capacity when at Leeds United when we have another go in the Championship next season, because that's where we're staying.
Let's see. Hopefully, there's positive news for my team and positive news for your team at the
I
end of the
hope so. I
season.
hope
Let's
so.
see.
But
Let's see.
on that depressing note, I think I'll wish the audience goodbye. But before we do, just do the usual good stuff: smash a like, share, all of that good stuff. And it's been wonderful to talk football again, albeit it's been quite a traumatic weekend. But we'll probably shoot again on Friday.
Yep.
So thank you, as always, for tuning in. We wish you a really good few days until the next time we catch up. So take care. Ta-ta.